Mike Shoesmith, welcome from the frozen tundra. So glad you're with us today.
Well, it's amazing that your former guest would bring up the Prime Minister of Canada, huh? Considering I have a bit of a an announcement to make.
Yeah, you've changed party affiliations, I understand. Tell us about that. I mean, people in America are going to be interested in what you have to say about this.
Well, I could almost get a little bit of a taste of how those people feel who voted for Obama and now regret it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine having that much regret, honestly.
Yeah, really.
That's got to be out. Once you realize the horrible mistake that was,
right?
That much regret. I can't imagine having that much regret. Yeah. But I can sort of sympathize with these people on a lower level here. When you hear what I'm about to say about now I have spoken highly of the Prime Minister of Canada on this show several times because. Mm-hmm. Because of his support for Israel, right?
And Richard Serrett just backed that up a few moments ago, yeah.
Yeah, and because the Prime Minister is in Israel, he's just wrapping up his whirlwind Mideast tour today. In fact, he's coming home today. But he did speak in Israel, and it was a glowing speech in support of Israel's, right to exist, et cetera, et cetera. But I am leaving the Conservative Party of Canada for recent events that have shed some light on some things here. And it began with Iran. Now, back in November, it was announced that six world powers were getting together with Iran to sort of hash out a deal that would involve, putting this thing with Iran in more of a controllable state without killing a bunch of people, right?
Right.
I mean, to me, that just seems like the right move to make here. I mean, Canada is a nuclear power, by the way. We have nuclear power. Canada gets a large portion of its electricity from nuclear power. We are a nuclear power, but we do not have nuclear weapons. You understand that?
Well, and you don't need nuclear weapons.
Right, we don't. We have them. We don't have them, but we kind of do have
That's right.
them. We kind of have yours, right?
That's right. You kind of have ours. Your cousins from the South, and we're glad of it. We love you guys. Yeah, yeah.
Right, and we're NATO members, and NATO's motto is if you attack one of us, you attack all of us.
That's right.
So we sort of have America's protections, but Iran has said all along they're seeking peaceful nuclear power. That's what they're seeking. They're seeking the exact same thing that Canada has. Okay?
Right.
So it was announced in November that powers are getting together to sort of hash out a deal with Iran where they can have peaceful nuclear power, just like what Canada has, but not enriched to the point where they can make bombs, okay? And that's all currently in process. That's all in process right now as we speak. They're talking about this, right? Canada says, no, we're not doing it. We don't want no part of it. And that was back in November. And I got to thinking, well, wait a minute. Iran is simply looking for the exact same thing that Canada is looking for, has already. That's all they want. That's all they're asking for here. Now, should we monitor that? Should we trust them? Absolutely not. They've given us no reason to trust them. But all they're asking for is what Canada has already, and Canada says, no, we don't want any part of that. We don't believe them. We want them to remain under the crippling sanctions that are upon them now, even though Iran is calling out for help here. They want the sanctions lifted. They want to be able to have nuclear power, because Iran doesn't have any refineries. I don't know how many people are aware of that. They can't even refine their own oil.
Yeah.
So they need power somewhere. They need power. So they want, anyway, the long story short here is that I sort of went, wait a minute, what is really going on here? Why are they against Iran having exactly what they have? And why are they so steadfast against this? Well, guess what? I'm looking at a report here from November. Oil prices sank Monday as nuclear deal between Iran and six world powers made it more likely that the sanctions choking Iranian oil exports would eventually be lifted. What happened? The price of crude sank from $108 a barrel to $93 a barrel. Well, guess what? That really put a dent in the amount of money that Canada gets, because Canada is a oil-producing country with enough oil to supply the entire world for 400 years.
Yeah, and America's just like it.
Right, and America's rising now to where it may become an oil exporter soon.
Right.
But my point with Canada is, I got to thinking, there's quite a hypocrisy here. I wonder if Canada is only supporting Israel because supporting Israel and keeping the dynamics tense over there keeps the price of crude high, right?
No, it couldn't be about the money, Mike. It couldn't be. It's got to be for biblical reasons that they're doing it.
Well, the seed was planted in my mind. Is the Canadian Conservative Party, so-called, really just a liberal party in the closet, so to speak?
Yeah.
So that sort of planted the seed in my mind that I need to start looking at the Conservative Party, which I have supported with my money and my vote for the last 20 years.
Right.
I need to start rethinking this. And so I just put it on the back burner, Carl. I just said, okay, let's keep an eye on what's really happening here. Well, guess what? Last week, all of the strip clubs in Canada, they began rebranding themselves to be what? Whorehouses. Because in Canada, 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court of Canada, they shut down all laws governing prostitution in Canada.
What does that mean? In other words, there are no laws governing? In other words, prostitution is wide open? Is that what you're saying?
Wide open.
Okay.
Now, that is reminiscent of something that happened back in 1988, when the Supreme Court of Canada said all laws governing abortion in Canada are unconstitutional. That was in 1988.
Right.
That was 26 years ago.
So you guys have no laws governing abortion and no laws governing prostitution. In other words, both of those are...
no laws governing prostitution, and we have had a conservative, so-called Conservative Party in power for the last more than a decade now.
Welcome to American politics. Welcome.
Well, they have done the so-called Conservative Party in Canada has done absolutely nothing, Carl, to stem the tide of abortion in this country. You know, for every 100 pregnancies that take place in Canada, 30 of those pregnancies end in abortion.
Amazing.
30% of our babies are killed every year. Yeah. 30%, and the Canadian government, the federal government, does absolutely nothing. Now, I ask you, Carl, is this a conservative party? Is this a conservative principle?
No.
Now you add that to the wide open prostitution in Canada. Now there are no laws governing it anymore. Now you add that to the homosexual marriage. And now you add that. Now you have 3 strikes and you're out, Carl.
Well,
this prostitution thing is the 3rd strike for me. They're out. I'm done supporting them financially. I'm done supporting them with my vote. I'm going to the Tea Party of Canada. You know, we have an actual Tea Party here in Canada. Well, it's Tea Party-like.
Yeah.
It's called the Christian Heritage Party, the CHP.
Uh-huh.
Now, you think Mike Shoesmith should support the Christian Heritage Party?
I think
a real conservative party.
Yeah, I think probably so.
Yeah, interested in actual conservative values when it comes to social and fiscal responsibility. The Christian Heritage Party is my new party. It's my party of choice. Do they have a real impact? Well, you know what? Maybe with Mike Shoesmith backing them, they might start to have an impact. I don't know.
Hey, with Mike Shoesmith and the Simmons News and Ministry Network and Freedom Friday right behind that, I think you probably will be making an impact very soon.
Yeah, I don't. This is the Israel thing, Carl. I suspect. This is one of those cases like you're in the playground, and you're trying to build up, get a fight going in the playground,
right.
And one person says, you don't have to take that. You don't have to take that. You don't have to take that from that guy. Go take him on. Go take him on right now. And I sort of see it that way, that Canada is stoking the flames of discontent in the Middle East in order to keep the price of crude high. Right. I see that. I've seen that for some time, sort of on the back burner. Right. I'm coming out now. I'm coming out and saying, look, I really believe the Conservative Party of Canada. 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
And I think they're out. In my mind, they're out.
Well, Mike, you're describing the Republican Party in the United States. They're just nothing but a Trojan horse for the liberal movement. That's all they are. I mean, John McCain, please. Marco Rubio, please. John Boehner, please. These guys are all liberals. They're liberals to the hilt, disguising themselves as conservatives so people will fawn over them, and then they just work their liberal, dastardly deeds. But, something else I was thinking about, Mike, with you guys just opening abortion and prostitution wide open in Canada with no laws whatsoever governing them, you do know that you guys are in for a plague, an absolute plague of STDs and AIDS very, very soon.
Yeah, well, we have a plague of the same plague that China's facing, by the way, after a generation of abortions. Canada has a plague. Now get this. This number will floor you.
All right, give us 1 minute, then we're going to take a break and we'll come back.
Canada has a breast cancer plague is facing now because of the abortion. A generation of aborted children has led to a travesty of breast cancer. China facing the same problem.
You know, you and I broached this topic several years ago, and then in the last couple of months you broached it and really started showing some of the medical and scientific correlations. And then I had on the air pro-life doc, Dr. Bill Lyle, OBGYN, who's known from coast to coast, who confirmed that there are correlations in those studies and that there seems to be a connection and there's much deeper looking going on at that. And now, just in the last couple of weeks, prior to you mentioning this today, I've been seeing more and more medical and scientific reports coming out saying, you know what, there's a definite correlation. And so I just want people to know, first of all, Mike and I are not saying that everybody that has had breast cancer, and bless your hearts, God bless you, we're not saying that that means you've had an abortion. But what we are saying is that people who have abortions, apparently, statistically, and this is being borne out by scientific studies, that if you've had an abortion, apparently you're much more susceptible to breast cancer. Isn't that correct, Mike?
Well, you know, you guys remember the story with Chris Christie and the bridge shutting down, the George Washington Bridge. Well, listen to this now. That area, if you include all of the areas surrounding that bridge, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York City, all that area has a population of 30 million.
Right.
10% of the country's population lives in that small area.
Good gracious.
That's why shutting down that bridge was such a big deal. Well, listen, that's the same population of Canada. And Canada, since it legalized abortion in 1968, is currently diagnosing 500 new cases of breast cancer every week.
Wow.
Every week. Now, imagine the headlines if the New York City, Connecticut, Southern Connecticut, Eastern New Jersey area. Imagine if they were diagnosing 500 new cases of breast cancer every week.
Yeah,
that would be an epidemic of breast cancer.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Can we take this caller, Mike?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, good deal. I want to bring on Harold, and Harold's listening. Harold was in. Mallory, I think I just cut Mike off, and I'm still not understanding this because I pushed the button and it was flashing, but I messed up. But anyway, we'll get Mike back on. But Harold, welcome to Freedom Friday. So glad you're with us today.
Thank you, Carl. It was great being with you last week.
Yes, this is Harold Westerman. You were in our studio audience last week from Canada, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks for listening.
I just heard Mike on there talking about, of course, Canadian against Canadian.
Yeah, he's back on, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to say I don't 100% agree with Mike that you can just bail out on a party. And I agree it may not be the best party in the world. And I agree the rest of my family, they all vote Christian Heritage Party. It seems like I'm the only one that votes conservative.
Yeah.
But if we can only get people to get involved with parties,
yeah,
then you can have a chance to turn things around.
Yeah, you know, Harold, you sound. This conversation between you and Mike, and I'm going to let Mike speak to this in a moment, sounds just like the conversation we're having in America between the Republicans and the Tea Party. The very same conversation. But Mike, what do you say to that?
Well, I suppose, Harold, it's great talking to you, by the way. I suppose, you know, I have been involved with the Conservative Party for 20 years. I voted, I've given the money, I've spoken as a conservative. I've called into talk radio all over this country as a conservative. And I suppose at the very least, Harold, I am most interested in sending the Conservative Party a message. Yeah. That conservatism must be welcomed back into the Conservative Party. I mean, either that or change your name. Right. Right? I mean, let's bring conservatism back to the Conservative Party. Right. So at the very least, Harold, I see what you're saying. I just sending a message here, brother. Just sending a message.